Welcome. I bid you welcome. John Clauser, Johnny Metal, the Gray, the Metal Dad, coming to you from my music corner of the world. Welcome to another edition of Album Track Ranking A to Z. Today is brought to you by the letter P, and I thought today would be a good time. Maybe my shirt's going to give it away a little bit here. Let's talk a little bit Robert Plant. And I'm going to talk about his debut solo album Pictures at 11. But before I get into talking about the album, I want to share just a few thoughts about the Becoming Led Zeppelin documentary that is out in theaters right now, or at least I think it's still out in theaters. A couple weeks ago, I had a text message from a buddy of mine. I hadn't seen him for a little bit. Thank you, Matt. Um, And he asked me, "Hey, do you want to go see the Becoming Led Zeppelin documentary? It's at this one theater. It's in the IMAX." And so I was like, "Yeah, heck yeah, I'd love to see." I didn't even know it was going to be playing around here. So yeah, I went to go see it. Um, my guess, if you are a fan of Led Zeppelin, a big fan of Led Zeppelin, and you watch my channel, chances are you've probably watched this already. But if you haven't, and you're kind of waiting for it to come out on like a streaming service or something like that, I won't give a whole lot of spoilers. I will say this though. I absolutely loved it. Um, if ever I needed a reason to fall in love with Led Zeppelin again, that documentary was it. Led Zeppelin has always been one of my favorite bands. Jimmy Page is certainly one of my top five favorite guitar players. Um, I just adored this documentary. When you talk about their upbringings, how they got their musical starts, and eventually how they came together as a band, um, it was just magical to me. It was just wonderful. The IMAX experience pumps the volume up so loud that you kind of think you're almost at the shows that you were seeing and kind of interspersed throughout the documentary. Um, man, it was a really great experience. And I had this rant that I was going to go on because I know there's a lot of people out there who think um physical graffiti or the later like Houses of the Holy or the maybe for some maybe even in Through the Outdoor or Presence that those albums are like top tier Led Zeppelin. And I was so ready just to say, you know what, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. And then I realized, you know what, I am no better than the Wasp fans who complain that Wasp is only Wasp unless Chris Holmes is in it. And they don't appreciate the fact that Blackie Lawless wanted to mature as a songwriter and musician and things like that. And that those later albums are so forgotten by uh, Wasp fans because the most a lot of casual fans just want to hear the stuff Chris is on. That's it. They just want to listen to those first few albums. Uh, and then I realized, you know what? Okay, if you like Physical Graffiti the best, power to you. I'm not going to complain about that. It's not one I reach for that much, but I realize I'm not any better because I love those first four Zeppelin albums very much. The passion, the fire, the energy that you saw on the screen when you're hearing Good Times, Bad Times, Dazed and Confused, Communication Breakdown, the different songs that they played on that in the documentary that would lead into the second album. You can't tell me that passion, that energy, that rawness, that hunger was there for physical graffiti, for and through the outdoor, through whatever. And I'm sure it was. It just grew up and it changed. So I was getting ready to derail everybody, and then like I said, I'm no better than some of the Wasp fans. But anyway, discovering Led Zeppelin, absolutely wonderful. I hope to own a copy of it myself once it comes available, either on streaming or a Blu-ray or something like that. I don't have a big surround sound system here at the condo, but um, as much as I love Led Zeppelin, I know I'm going to own a copy of it because it really was a very special documentary. So thank you to the people who put that together, and thanks to the band that to John Paul Jones, Jimmy Page, and Robert Plant for taking part in it. And the Bottom family. I don't want to forget that because they're very integral into the documentary as well. So anyway, I don't want to beleaguer that too long. So pictures at 11. Let's talk about this real quick. So this comes out in summer of '82 on this would basically be one of the last um, original releases on the Swan Song label. I know Led Zeppelin Coda comes later, but about a year later, I guess. but uh, but this would be Robert's only album on the Swan Song label. After that, it would eventually kind of dissipate. He would go on to form Esperanza Records that would still be distributed by Atlantic Records. Um, this album is essentially Robert trying not to be Led Zeppelin, but at the same time, he is still sounds a little like Led Zeppelin. It's like I don't know how to really else describe it, but that's about the best way I can really call it. There's still his voice obviously will make you think it's Zeppelin, and then you have the powerful drums, both of Phil Collins on at least 5 tracks. You got, as Butch Jones would say, Cozy effing Powell. Sorry, I'm going to paraphrase there because I don't like to cuss on my shows. Um, on 2 songs, and then you got like a drum machine on one other song. Who do you have here? You've got Robbie Blunt on guitars, who's not overly distorted, but at the same time again working with the material that was written. There is a lot of stuff that could probably pass for Jimmy Page maybe a little bit. Paul Martinez on bass, Jez Woodruff on keyboards and synths, and of course Phil Collins and Cozy Powell on drums. With anyway, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of do the remastered version here. Had 2 extra bonus tracks. Had Far Post, which was a B-side to one of the original singles. I'm drawing blank here. Let me see if I can quick find that out. Doesn't say. Of course, it doesn't say. I know it was a B-side to one of the songs. I want to say it's probably Burned Down One Side. Um, and then there's also a live version of Like I've Never Been Gone. So I'm not going to include that one, but I will include Far Post. So let's get into this. Enough of me blabbing. Um, for me, the bottom track is going to be track 6 on the CD, track 2 on side 2. It's Fat Lip. This is the song with the drum machine. Not a bad song. It just doesn't do a whole lot for me, but it's got a little bit of a blues tinge to it. But I don't know, something about the drums just doesn't the Simmons drums or the electronic drum or whatever was used, nah, not really doing it for me. Um, the next song, the number 8, is actually going to be the bonus track, Far Post. Nice rock and roll tune, nothing wrong with it. Again, just not as really strong as the other songs that are going to come. So there's but not a bad track. Still a good track though. Number 7, and it really kind of pains me. it kind of pains me to put this one this low because there's so much beautiful work in this. But as the second track on side one, Moonlight and Samosa, there's beautiful guitar work here by Robbie Blunt. Um, nice ebbs and flows. It does seem a little strange to do a slower ballad song right after the fiery opening, but here again, you're hearing the timbers in Robert Plant's voice that you were starting to hear in Through the Outdoor, and it carries forth and it really works well on this song. It's beautiful, beautiful track. Um, let's see. Track no, let's see. Number six is going to be track three on side two. Track seven, Like I've Never Been Gone. There's segments of that song which you, if you followed there's a podcast Robert Plant was doing called Digging Deep. The music of that song was used in the kind of the intro music for the podcast. Beautiful song, another kind of a ballad song. Again, maybe almost maybe a sequel to Since You've Been or Since I've Been Loving You. I don't know. There's a little maybe a little bit of a sequel there, but there is kind of a slow bluesy feel, but it feels different than Since I've Been Loving You. But it really is a beautiful, beautiful song. Robbie Blunt again with beautiful guitar work here. Um, Number five is going to be track three on side one, Pledge Pen. And I want to get the name of the man who plays the saxophone on this one. I want to make sure I'm getting his name right. Raphael Ravenscroft. Ravenscroft. Anyway, he does a really juicy sax solo on this one. Great track. Nice drum from Phil Collins. I think this was one of the early singles. A good track. Was always one of my favorites growing up as a kid. Um, Next up, I is actually going to be side one opener. Worse Than Detroit. I really kind of like the jangly, rocky feel of this song. It's kind of a fun, almost 6 minute song. Nice, nice kind of feel to the song. I always like this one. Number three is going to be the proper album closer, and that is a mystery title. Um, of kind of a Zeppelin-esque kind of song here almost. The song gets into a bit of a mystery toward the end because it feels like it's just going all kinds of different places, and then it finally ends. But it's still a really I love the song altogether. Musically, there's just a lot of good stuff, a lot of good riffage going on here. Um, Number two is going to be the album opener, Burning Down the One Side. Strong opener. Doesn't it totally sound like Zeppelin, but it has its moments. But it's still a great track. I will admit there's been a lot of times I had to actually look the lyrics up to this song because sometimes I'm not even sure what Robert's singing in this song because it's a little tough to understand. But I love this song. I always enjoyed this one. Great album opener. Um, and like I said, Butch Jones will be very happy with me on this one, as will probably Pete Jones. And my favorite track off this album is going to be the one with Cozy Powell, and I'm talking about Slow Dancer, the almost 8 minute long track. That slow plodding, this one's very Zeppelin-esque. A lot of different eras of Zeppelin you could kind of throw in here, but the guitar work Robbie does here is I don't know if I would call that like the main riff to the verse. I don't know if I would call that Jimmy Page like, but there is a lot of other stuff here that is very Zeppelin like, especially Robert's vocals here. But it's just such a grooving, heavy track, and I just love all of the places it takes you to. So my favorite song, uh, Flow Dancer, from Pictures at 11. So yeah, tell me, guys, what do you guys think about this album? You probably saw, if anybody read Martin Popoff's Pictures at 11 book, which forgive me for not having a copy of it handy, but of course, I got to take part in that book. I didn't take part in this album per se, but I did take part in three albums. That was a joy to do. Um, I've been a big Zeppelin fan for so long, and I've tried to follow Robert's career as closely as I could. I have enjoyed where Robert's career has taken him. He's not trying to totally hold on to the Zeppelin thing, but when he does, he wants to reinvent himself in the style of what he's been doing. And he certainly did that when I saw him with Alison Krauss. That night he did three songs from Zep 4, and it was Rock and Roll, which was totally reimagined. Battle of Evermore, which was pretty close to the original. There wasn't a whole, they didn't do a whole lot different to that. And then, of course, what they did with When the Levee Breaks was just immaculate. I absolutely loved what they did with those songs. And so I was glad to see something of Zeppelin in some way, shape, or form performed by somebody from Zeppelin. Never got to see him in the heyday. Never got to see Jimmy Page with the Firm or Black Crowes or any of the projects he did. Never got to see Page and Plant whenever they would tour. So this was the only chance I had to see Robert Plant. So I was a absolute gas, and I was so thankful to get to do it. So, what y'all think about the album? Looking forward to doing something next week with Q. I don't know if I want to surprise you by pulling something really weird and strange out, or if I'm going to go with something that's maybe a little low-hanging fruit. I might go with something that's low-hanging fruit just because it's more in my DNA more than something a little not so um, low, not quite, might be a little out there. But anyway, um, like, share, subscribe. You know all those things. Tell me what you thought about Becoming Led Zeppelin if you saw it. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And we'll come back at you next week when it'll be brought to you by the letter Q. So, John Clauser, Johnny Metal, the Metal Gray, the Dad, coming to you from a music corner of the world. See you soon.